Have you ever wondered why some towns seem perfectly normal during the day, but as soon as the sun dips low, everyone rushes inside and bolts their doors? What if the fog that rolls and isn't just mist, but a veil hiding something far more sinister? Tonight, we're diving into the chilling secrets of a quiet little town where the night fog brings terrors that make residents lock down without fail. These aren't just stories. They're the 5 reasons etched into the town's unspoken history. Tales of whispers in the haze, vanished souls, and echoes that linger long after dawn. Stick around, because what starts as a simple fog might just crawl into your dreams. Imagine a place where the air thickens at dusk, turning streets into ghostly corridors. That's our town, nestled in a valley where the fog arrives like clockwork, swallowing everything in its path. It's not the cold that scares people. It's what the fog conceals. Primal fears come alive here. The dread of being utterly alone in the murk, the madness that creeps in when you hear footsteps that aren't there, and the cosmic terror of realizing the fog might be alive, watching, waiting. These reasons aren't myths. They're rooted in events that shattered lives, forcing the lockdown tradition that saved countless others. Let's start with the first reason, a tale that began with an old diary pulled from the fog's grasp. They call it the Fog-Bound Journal, discovered by a curious historian named Elias on a foggy evening walk. He thought it was just antique paper, but as he flipped through, strange entries appeared, written in faded ink that seemed to shift under lamplight. The journal spoke of a settler from centuries ago who claimed the fog carried voices from beyond, urging him to step deeper into the mist. Elias laughed it off at first, but that night, as the fog pressed against his windows, he heard faint murmurs calling his name. The initial tragedy struck when Elias vanished the next morning, his home empty except for the journal left open on his desk. Neighbors searched, but the fog had lifted, leaving no trace. Only a chill in the air that made them hurry inside earlier than usual. Whispers spread through the town, hinting that the journal wasn't lost but cursed, its pages revealing incantations that summoned the fog's hidden entities. Those words, when read aloud, drew the mist closer, thickening it until it felt like hands grasping at your skin. Elias had recited one by accident, and now the town knew. Ignore the fog's call, or risk being pulled in forever. That journal became the first reason to lock down, a warning etched in every resident's mind. If that unnerved you, the second reason digs even deeper, rooted in the abandoned building on the town's edge. The fog-shrouded orphanage stood silent for decades, its windows like empty eyes staring into the night. Locals avoided it. But one foggy autumn, a group of teens dared to explore, drawn by rumors of laughter echoing from within. What they uncovered was a bleak history. Records showed children disappearing during heavy fogs in the 1920s, their beds found empty as if they'd walked into the mist willingly. One survivor, an old woman now, shared her fractured testimony years later. She remembered a broken doll in the playroom that moved on its own when the fog rolled in, its porcelain eyes following you, whispering secrets only the lost kids knew. She fled that night, but not before seeing shadows in the fog mimic the shapes of her playmates, beckoning her back. Hidden files from the era surfaced recently, suppressed by authorities who didn't want panic. They detailed how the orphanage closed after a final fog night when all remaining children vanished, leaving only echoes and that eerie doll behind. The files noted strange markings on the walls, symbols that glowed faintly in the mist, tying the place to older fog lore. This became the second reason. The fog awakens remnants of the past, pulling the unwary into forgotten tragedies. Now, picture a paradox that ties these tales together. What if the fog isn't just hiding horrors, but creating them from our own fears? A mystery will unravel soon, but for now, it leaves you wondering how deep the deception goes. That brings us to the third reason, starting with a carved symbol found etched into an ancient tree on the town's outskirts. The fog-etched sigil appeared after a particularly dense night fog, discovered by a jogger who felt compelled to touch it. At first glance, it looked like random scratches, but closer inspection revealed an occult design, pulsing faintly as if breathing. A local doctor, examining a patient who had seen the sigil, noted disquieting details in his records. The man's skin bore faint replicas of the mark, as if the fog had branded him while he slept. The patient rambled about visions of endless gray voids before he slipped into silence. Then came the vanished witness, a friend who had accompanied the jogger. She left a final panic message on her phone, describing how the fog thickened around her, the sigil glowing brighter, pulling her toward it with invisible threads. Her voice trailed off into static, and she was gone by morning, another soul claimed. This sigil became the third reason, a beacon in the fog that lures and erases, reminding the town why doors must stay locked. Yet the shadows only grew deeper. What surfaced next twisted reality itself. The fog in our town isn't random weather. It's a living shroud, and the secrets it hides have forced generations to hide away at nightfall. We've touched on 3 reasons so far. The cursed journal that summons whispers, the orphanage where lost children beckon, and the sigil that brands and vanishes. But that paradox I mentioned, it's resolved here. The fog doesn't create horrors from thin air. It amplifies what's already buried in the town's soil, drawing from ancient curses that bind all these tales. This escalation means a lockdown isn't just tradition. It's survival against a force that's evolving. Now, let's unmask the secret motive behind the fog-bound journal. It wasn't just a diary. Its true purpose was a ritual guide, penned by that settler to trap souls in the fog, ensuring his own immortality by feeding the mist with wanderers. Elias uncovered this when a fragment of the journal resurfaced, revealing how each recitation added a layer to the fog's hunger. Shifting to the orphanage, a forgotten folklore link emerged. The building sat on grounds tied to native legend of the spirit that weeps in the mist, luring the innocent to join its eternal sorrow. This myth explained why the children's shadows persist, forever seeking company in the fog. For the sigil, the blood oath sacrifice came to light through decoded carvings. It demanded a toll from anyone who gazed too long, a piece of their essence surrendered to the void. One town elder confessed his ancestor had paid that price, carving the sigil to appease a fog during a famine. Then there's the time-slipped relic, an artifact unearthed near the sigil. A pocket watch stopped at midnight. Its gears fused as it pulled from another era's fog. It belonged to a traveler who claimed the mist bent time, looping victims in endless nights. This leads to the 4th reason, a story of eerie sounds in the haze. The chorus in the fog started as faint humming reported by night workers, but when played backwards, it revealed pleas for help, voices trapped in the mist. A keeper's diary from the town's lighthouse detailed contradictory accounts. Some heard lullabies, others screams, all syncing with the fog's density. The diary's author vanished mid-entry, his last words warning of the chorus's pull. Now, imagine a darker enigma. What the fog isn't confined to our town but spreading, carrying these horrors to new places? We'll confront that soon. But first, the true name half decoded from the chorus. Syllables like Neth, Aram, an entity whispered in old texts as the fog's heart. Back to the journal. An omen across centuries appeared. Its symbol mirrored in paintings from distant lands, all depicting fog-engulfed villages with locked doors. For the orphanage, haunted footage resurfaced. A lost reel from the 1920s showing children playing. Then the fog rolls in, and their forms distort into shadows that reach toward the camera. In the 4th tale, an impossible phenomenon struck eyewitnesses. During a fog night, time ruptured, with clocks jumping hours while people felt frozen, hearing the chorus echo their own future regrets. This brings us to the 5th reason, hinted in a conspiracy dossier leaked from Town Hall. It suggests a cover-up. Officials knew the fog was man-made, born from experiments gone wrong in the valley decades ago. Archival footage freeze-frames show a hidden silhouette in the mist, a figure that matches no known resident, watching from afar. But the deepest horror still waited, pulsing beneath the final veil. As we peel back the last layers, recall that spreading enigma. The fog isn't just local. It's a sentient force migrating, drawn to fear like a moth to flame, which means your own night could thicken soon. This climax reveals how it all connects in terrifying unity. For the 5th reason, the ritual fulfilled by that silhouette entity. The dossier exposed the cult's endgame, invoking the fog to harvest souls for a greater awakening. Completing cycles started centuries ago. The key survivor's hidden identity? A doppelganger of the original settler, masquerading as a modern resident to perpetuate the lockdowns. Circling back to the journal, the crime behind it hid in a twisted continuity. Entries disguised confession of luring victims into the fog. Not murder, but eternal entrapment. The orphanage footage sparked global phenomena, with similar fogs appearing worldwide after unauthorized screenings, cursing viewers with whispers. The sigil tied to mass vanishings, appearing etched in modern cities during disappearances, linking our town's fog to broader mysteries. Finally, the cosmic truth reframes everything. The fog is a gateway, not to another world, but to our collective nightmares manifested, feeding on lockdown fears to grow stronger. If you dare uncover the sigil's full pattern and trace its spread, check the link in the description for exclusive maps that might just save your night. As the fog lifts in our tales, one chilling thought remains. What if the mist outside your window tonight carries the same secrets, waiting for you to forget to lock the door? Sleep tight, but listen closely. The whispers might already be starting. The fog in our town isn't random weather. It's a living shroud, and the secrets it hides have forced generations to hide away at nightfall. We've touched on 3 reasons so far: the cursed journal that summons whispers, the orphanage where lost children beckon, and the sigil that brands and vanishes. But that paradox I mentioned, it's resolved here. The fog doesn't create horrors from thin air. It amplifies what's already buried in the town's soil, drawing from ancient curses that bind all these tales. This escalation means a lockdown isn't just tradition, it's survival against a force that's evolving, growing hungrier with each night it claims another wanderer. Now, imagine the weight of that truth settling in as we delve deeper, because the fog's roots twist further than anyone suspected, pulling at the very fabric of reality in ways that make simple hiding feel futile. Let's unmask the secret motive behind the fog-bound journal first, peeling back layers that Elias never lived to see. It wasn't merely a diary of ramblings from a long-gone settler. Its true purpose emerged from hidden passages that only revealed themselves under moonlight filtered through mist. The settler, a man named Harlan Crow, had stumbled upon forbidden knowledge during a storm-swept voyage across the sea, knowledge that promised eternal life, but at a terrible cost. He crafted the journal as a trap, infusing its pages with incantations designed to lure curious souls into the fog, where their essence would feed an entity he bargained with, granting him fragment of immortality in return. Each entry wasn't a confession but a baited hook, worded to draw readers closer, making them recite phrases that bound their spirits to the mist. When Elias found it, he unwittingly continued the cycle, his disappearance adding fuel to the fog's endless appetite. Neighbors who dared examine the journal afterward felt a pull, a subtle urge to step outside as dusk fell, but they resisted, passing down warnings that this was no ordinary book. It was a vessel for something ancient and insatiable. The motive twisted everything, turning a simple find into a deliberate snare, one that explained why the whispers always sounded so personal, echoing the reader's deepest regrets. As the town pieces together over hushed conversations in well-lit kitchens, they realized the journal's curse wasn't random. It targeted those with unresolved pains, amplifying them until the fog could claim them whole. This revelation sent ripples through the community, making lockdown stricter, with families double-checking windows, as if the mist could seep through cracks like smoke. But the journal's secrets didn't stop there. They intertwined with other tales, hinting at a larger web where every reason fed into the next. Shifting our gaze to the orphanage, a forgotten folklore link surfaced from dusty archives in the town's library, connecting the abandoned building to myths older than the settlement itself. Long before the orphanage stood, native stories spoke of a wandering spirit known as the Weeper of the Valleys, a being born from a tragic betrayal, where a guardian failed to protect their kin during a relentless fog that blanketed the land for weeks. This spirit, condemned to eternal grief, wove itself into the mist, seeking to gather lost souls as companions in its sorrow. The orphanage, built unwittingly on those sacred grounds, became a focal point, its walls absorbing the weeper's lament until fog nights awakened it fully. Those vanished children in the 1920s weren't just taken. They were called by the folklore's echo, their laughter turning to cries that blended with the mist's hush. The survivor, who shared her testimony, recalled dreams where the weeper appeared as a shadowy figure, arms outstretched, promising warmth in the cold haze. This link explained the broken doll's movements. It was a conduit, infused with the spirit's essence, its eyes reflecting the faces of the taken. As word spread, elders nodded knowingly, recalling how their ancestors avoided the valley during full moons, when the fog thickened most. The folklore tied the orphanage not just a local dread, but to a cycle of loss that predated modern times, making the second reason feel timeless, a reminder that ignoring old tales invites the past to reclaim the present. With each fog rolling in, residents now whispered prayers borrowed from those ancient stories, hoping to appease what lingered below. Yet this connection only deepened the chill, as it suggested the fog's amplifications weren't accidental, but deliberate echoes from buried histories. Now, turning to the sigil, the blood oath sacrifice came into sharp focus through fragmented letters found near the etched tree. It wasn't a mere symbol. It demanded a toll, a voluntary offering from those who carved it, binding their lineage to the fog's whims. The jogger who discovered had an ancestor involved in a desperate pact during a harsh winter decades ago, when famine gripped the town and the mist seemed to swallow crops overnight. That forebear etched the sigil as a plea, offering a drop of vitality to summon aid from whatever dwelled in the haze. But the price echoed through generations, claiming descendants who strayed too close. The doctor's notes on the branded patient revealed faint scars that matched old ritual descriptions, with the oath extracted not just energy but memories, leaving victims' hollow shells wandering into the night. This sacrifice explained the pull so many felt, a familial debt calling them home to the void. Friends of the vanished witness pieced together her final days, noting how she spoke of dreams with a sigil burned in her mind, urging her complete what her bloodline started. The revelation shook the town, as families traced their trees for any ties to that desperate era, fearing their own hidden oaths. It escalated a third reason from a mysterious mark to a hereditary curse, one that the fog enforced without mercy. As whispers of this spread, lockdowns included family rituals, like sharing stories to strengthen bonds against the mist's divisive hunger. But the sigil story held more layers, leading to artifacts that bent the rules of time itself. The time-slipped relic surfaced during a rare daytime dig near the tree, a rusted amulet from what experts dated to the 1700s, yet inscribed with details of modern events, like the orphanage vanishings. This piece, warped as if exposed to impossible pressures, suggested the fog-warped chronology, pulling objects and people across eras to serve its amplifications. The amulet's owner, a wanderer from colonial times, had etched warnings about the mist's timeless nature, claiming it looped victims in eternal moments of dread. When held during fog nights, it warmed unnaturally, as if alive with stolen time. This relic tied the sigil to broader distortions, explaining why some survivors reported seeing glimpses of past townsfolk in haze, their faces pleating across centuries. The discovery prompted secret meetings among locals, debating if destroying such items would break the cycle or unleash worse. It added a cosmic edge to the fears, making the lockdown feel like a fragile barrier against not just space but time unraveling in the mist. Imagine the unease of holding something that echoes your future regrets, a tangible proof that the fog plays with more than shadows. This revelation bridged to newer terrors, ones that hummed in the air like a distant song. Enter the fourth reason, where the chorus backwards unveiled an eerie soundtrack woven into the fog itself. Night workers first reported it as a low murmur, but recordings captured and reverse revealed coherent pleas, voices begging for release from the mist's grasp. One tape, analyzed by a skeptical audio expert, showed layers of sound that shouldn't exist, frequencies mimicking human despair, syncing perfectly with the fog's density. The backwards chorus spoke of entrapment, naming places like the orphanage and sigil site, as if the taken were broadcasting from within. This discovery chilled listeners, who swore the sounds lingered in their ears long after, drawing them toward open doors at dusk. It transformed foggy nights from silent threats to symphonies of the lost, making earplugs a staple in lockdown preparations. The revelation suggested the fog wasn't mute. It communicated, using the chorus to erode resolve. As more tapes surfaced, patterns emerged, linking the voices to known vanishings, their tones growing desperate with each playback. This added an auditory horror to the reasons, one that crept into dreams, blurring the line between hearing and hallucinating. But the chorus held contradictions, detailed in the keeper's diary from the old mill on the town's edge. The keeper, a reclusive man named Silas, logged nightly observations, noting how the sound shifted based on who listened. Lullabies for the lonely, accusations for the guilty. His entries grew erratic, contradicting earlier ones, as if the fog rewrote his thoughts mid-sentence. One page described harmony, the next chaos, with sketches of waveforms that matched the sigil's curves. Silas vanished after an entry warning that the diary itself amplified the chorus, pulling readers into its rhythm. The contradictory accounts puzzled investigators, who found the mill empty, echoes faintly humming in the walls. This diary revealed the chorus as manipulative, tailoring its call to exploit weaknesses, making the fourth reason personal and insidious. Families now avoided music at night, fearing it might blend with the mist song. The enigma deepened, but hold on, what if the fog isn't confined to our town but spreading, carrying these horrors to new places? A darker puzzle we'll face head-on later. For now, let's decode part of the chorus's true name, half revealed in Silas's final scribbles. Fragments like Vorthal, syllables from arcane lore, describing a devourer of echoes, an entity that feeds on unspoken fears. Pronouncing it even partially thick in the fog, as tested by brave souls who regretted the experiment. This half-name tied the chorus to the journal's incantations, suggesting a shared origin in Harlan's bargain. It escalated the dread, implying the fog had a voice, identity lurking just beyond comprehension. Circling back to the journal, an omen across centuries appeared in overlooked artworks from European galleries. Depictions of mist-shrouded hamlets where the same symbol from the pages loomed in the background, doors barred against a haze. These paintings, dated to the Renaissance, showed figures vanishing into fog, their expressions mirroring Elias's last known photo. This omen suggested the curse migrated with settlers like Harlan, planting seeds in new soils. It reframed the first reason as global, not local, making the town's plight feel like a chapter in an endless saga. Art historians who studied them reported foggy visions, blurring art and reality. For the orphanage, haunted celluloid resurfaced in a forgotten attic. Reels from the 1920s capturing playtime. Then the fog encroaches, distorting frames until children's outlines merge with shadows reaching out. One clip looped endlessly, showing the broken doll animate, its head turning toward the viewer. This footage, when screened privately, induced fog-like hazes in rooms, linking it to Weeper's folklore. As we peel back the last layers, recall that spreading enigma. The fog isn't just local. It's a sentient force migrating, drawn to fear like a moth to flame, which means your own night could thicken soon, carrying whispers and shadows to unsuspecting places far beyond our valley. This climax ties every thread into a horrifying knot, revealing how the mist doesn't just haunt our town. It learns, adapts, and seeks new grounds where doubts linger, turning isolated incidents into a creeping plague that can envelop anyone listening tonight. The payoff shatters illusions of safety, because if the fog amplifies buried curses here, imagine what it unearths elsewhere, feeding on global anxieties to swell its form. No border contains it. Reports from distant cities mirror our tales, with sudden lockdowns whispered in online forums, all tracing back to that original bargain Harlan struck. This migration explains fleeting fogs and urban sprawls, where people vanish mid-stride, their last words echoing our chorus. The dread escalates to cosmic scales, making our 5 reasons not warnings but harbingers for a world on the brink. Hold tight as we expose the final truths, because once unveiled, they linger like mist in your thoughts. Started with the 5th reason's ritual fulfilled. The conspiracy dossier peeled open to reveal the cult's endgame, a shadowy group descended from those wartime scientists who birthed the fog through forbidden experiments blending chemicals with arcane rites. They didn't aim for a weapon. They sought communion with an otherworldly presence, invoking the mist as a vessel to harvest essences for a grand awakening, where the collected souls would merge into a singular entity capable of reshaping reality. The dossier outlined steps, seeding the valley with sigils, amplifying whispers through journals, and using orphanages as collection points, all culminating in annual fog surges that pulled and marked. Recent leaks showed the ritual nearing completion, with the silhouette and footage not a watcher, but the cult's high priest, orchestrating from within a haze to fulfill prophecies scrawled in hidden ledgers. One entry described a final invocation plan for a fog-laden equinox, where the mist would solidify, birthing the entity anew. This exposure rocked the town hall, forcing officials to admit partial truths in closed meetings. But the cult persisted underground, their endgame twisting vanishings into sacrifices that strengthened the fog's reach. Residents who glimpsed the dossier felt watched, as if the mist now targeted those who knew too much. The ritual reframed the fifth reason from a cover-up to an act of apocalypse in slow motion, one where lockdowns delayed but couldn't prevent the inevitable harvest. As paranoia spread, families added symbols of protection to doors, borrowed from native lore, hoping to disrupt the cycle. Yet the fulfillment loomed, with fogs growing denser each season, hinting the endgame edge closer. Now, unveiling the doppelganger in that same tale, the key survivor's hidden identity surfaced through DNA traces in the dossier's appendices, a woman who escaped a recent fog incident, claiming to have seen the silhouette up close. She wasn't who she seemed. Tests revealed her as a mirror of Harlan Crow himself, not a descendant but a manifestation pulled from the mist, a doppelganger crafted by the entity's bargain to walk among the living and perpetuate the deceptions. Harlan's essence, trapped in the fog, splintered into copies over centuries, infiltrating the town as trusted figures to ensure the ritual's continuity. This survivor had posed as a librarian, subtly guiding curious souls toward the journal or orphanage ruins, her eyes holding that same faded ink shimmer. When confronted, she dissolved into haze before witnesses, leaving only an echo of laughter that matched the chorus. The revelation explained inconsistencies in testimonies, like how some survivors encouraged night walks, sowing doubt about lockdowns. It turned allies into suspects, fracturing community trust as people-eyed neighbors for tells, unnatural calm during fog alerts, or whispers under breath. This doppelganger element elevated the fifth reason to personal betrayal, what a fog didn't just take. It impersonated, eroding safety from within. Whispers in cafes now questioned lineages, fearing more copies lurked, waiting to fulfill their roles. The horror deepened, suggesting the mist birthed replicas to expand its influence, migrating through these vessels to seed new towns. Circling back to the first story, the crime behind a fog-bound journal hid in a twisted continuity error within its pages, where dates jumped erratically, masking a confession of entrapment that bordered on eternal torment rather than simple vanishing. Harlan didn't just lure. He documented how he ensnared his own kin first, binding them to the mist to test the incantations, their pleas woven into the whispers that Elias heard. A closer read, aided by ultraviolet light on salvaged fragments, revealed overwritten lines admitting to orchestrating disappearances that the town dismissed as accidents, but the continuity glitches, repeating phrases with subtle changes. It coordinates the hidden spots where remnants of the taken lingered, half-formed in the fog. One explorer who followed them found faded outlines in the soil, shapes that shifted like living shadows. This crime reframed the journal as a ledger of calculated dooms, not random curses, making the first reason a foundation of deliberate malice that fueled the entire web. The discovery prompted burnings of similar artifacts, but copies surfaced elsewhere, suggesting the fog preserved them. It added layers of guilt to the town's history, as ancestors had ignored early signs, allowing the crime to propagate. For the second tale, the cursed screenings of the orphanage footage sparked global phenomena, with unauthorized shares online triggering mimic fogs in viewers' locales, sudden mists rolling in at odd hours, carrying echoes of children's laughter that drew pets and kids toward windows. One viral clip, traced to a hacker who accessed the reels, caused a spike in vanishings across continents, where screens glitched during playback, displaying the weepers form briefly before devices overheated. Reports flooded forums. A family in a coastal city locked down after the footage induced haze in their home, shadows mimicking lost relatives. This global spread tied the orphanage to the migrating enigma, proving the second reason wasn't contained. It infected through media, cursing distant audiences with the same beckoning. Authorities scrambled to scrub the files, but mirrors persisted, amplifying the weepers' reach. The phenomena escalated fears, as screenings warp realities, blending virtual and physical mists. Back to the third. The sigil appeared during modern mass vanishings in bustling metros, etched faintly on subway walls or park benches, where groups disappeared en masse during unexpected fog banks. One incident in a major city mirrored our towns. A festival crowd thinned as mist ascended, survivors bearing brand-like marks, rambling about time slips and choruses. Investigations linked the sigil's glow to satellite images, showing anomalous weather patterns migrating from our valley, suggesting the blood oath expanded, claiming collectives to hasten the ritual. This mass scale reframed the third reason as epidemic, with a fog targeted crowds to harvest in bulk, eroding urban anonymity. News blackouts followed, but leaks fueled worldwide paranoia, with apps alerting to fog risks. The vanishings connected all tales, showing the sigil as a marker for the entity's expansion. Finally, the cosmic truth of the fifth reshapes every story. The fog isn't a curse or experiment gone awry. It's a fragment of vast, interdimensional consciousness, splintered into our reality through Harlan's bargain, feeding on collective dread to reassemble itself. The journal summoned its whispers, the orphanage housed its sorrow. The sigil marked its claims. The chorus sang its hunger, and the dossier hid its origins. All facets of this being that migrates by amplifying fears, turning local horrors into universal threats. This truth implies the lockdowns feed it too, as isolation breeds more anxiety, strengthening its form. It reframes our town as a cradle, the 5 reasons as stages in its growth, poised to engulf the world. Realizing this, some residents fled, only to find fogs following, drawn to their terror. The cosmic scale leaves no escape, making every night a potential veil for an awakening. If you dare uncover the sigil's full pattern and trace its spread through hidden maps that detail global sightings, check the link in the description. It might reveal if your area is next or offer wards to hold at bay. As the fog lifts in our tales, one chilling thought remains. What if the mist outside your window tonight carries the same secrets, waiting for you to forget to lock the door, or worse, whispering that safety was always an illusion? Listen closely in the quiet hours. The chorus might already hum your name, pulling you into the haze where truths twist eternal. Sleep if you can, but remember, the fog never truly clears. It just waits for the next dust to unveil more.